Peace, viewers. Previously, I discussed my spiritual puberty and the COVID pandemic. In this video, I will continue my discussion on the COVID pandemic and the new season. I was living in California at this time, the first state to lock down, as well as one with stricter lockdown restrictions. There was about a 3-month period of only watching church online, and about a month and a half period where I didn't even watch at all. I basically stopped praying, stopped reading the Bible. There was still a tension due to what I described in the previous video. And at this point was probably the weakest point in my faith and the weakest point in my journey therein. To make the long story short, part of the societal fracturing in response to the murder of George Floyd was me leaving the church that I spoke about in the past 2 videos and going to a new church. This next church was a Foursquare church, and it had been the result of a third church splitting over charismatic expression. Given that I was involved with the International House of Prayer, and the music director at this church, this new church I went to, was a high school friend of my parents, I was welcomed with open arms. A lot of regulations were imposed on churches during this time. Specific ones that I remember: no gathering indoors, no gatherings of more than 30, 6 feet social distancing, wear your mask, amongst the other different restrictions that we had with COVID. Now, the state of California also told churches specifically that they needed to stop meeting indoors. This new church that I went to said, okay, that's fine. We have no problem with that. We'll just meet outdoor and follow all of these directives as well. They had multiple services, each which only had 30 people with chairs spaced apart, 6 feet, and we all wore masks. We all followed the directives and still somehow got scrutinized by law enforcement. But at the end of the day, they were unable to do anything about it because we did not violate any of the statutes. This new church had met at 3 different locations while I was a part of it for only 1 year. And the previous church that I was a part of technically never had a building of its own either. I seem to have this weird affiliation and infatuation toward congregations that don't have their own meeting places. Me and the music director, we would meet on an almost weekly basis during the first part of the pandemic just because it really felt like we were doing life together. He encouraged me to get back into praying and reading the Bible. While this church was a bit more charismatic than I was honestly comfortable with, I figured going to a church was better than going to no church at all. While some family conversations were had in regard to me jumping ship unilaterally from a church, they figured since I was still going on my own accord without any sort of, social or familial expectation, they basically dropped it. Now, I would eventually move to Nashville once the pandemic loosened up a bit, and that's why my tenure at this church was so short. The last service I went to, they basically brought me up, prayed for me, laid hands on me, all that good, charismatic stuff. And they even gave me several $100s as a send-off as well, which I definitely really appreciated. I'd begun to explore various denominations at this time when I had gone to Nashville, as well as a bit before. But before going to Nashville, mainly exploring different types of denominations. And I had taken a particular interest in Methodism, Moravianism, and Orthodoxy as well. Those were the 3 denominations that really captivated me. I'd become disillusioned with evangelicalism writ large at this point. I may or may not have been a semi-Arian heretic still, but I would not explicitly repent of this until about maybe 2 years after this point in time. There were 2 churches that I was quote unquote shopping around in when I came to Nashville. One was literally right next door to my apartment, and the other one was a 15-minute drive away. The first one was generally charismatic, and the second one was Calvinistic. I found out about this after the fact that both of these churches were SBC churches. In the next video, I'll discuss which church I chose, why I chose that church, and theological development. Peace.